Hello everybody. In this tutorial we're going to be talking about the collaboration part of Chaos Cloud, which with Corona 12 update 1 got even more accessible. Now, in case you are not familiar with the collaboration functionality of Chaos Cloud, well then, in short, this thing makes collaborating inside a team or with your clients easier because it offers you collaboration focused tools like leaving comments that everyone can see or add to. It also makes it easier to keep better track of changes made to your renders with its versioning functionality. And then on top of that, you can also set up virtual tours of your projects, which you can, again, share with your team or even with your clients. Now, with Corona 12 Update 1 update, working with the collaboration part of Chaos Cloud became even easier because you can now upload images to it straight from the VFB. And so in this tutorial, we're going to show you how to do just that, but then we're also going to be exploring the collaboration part of Chaos Cloud, just so you get a little bit familiar with it and see all the cool things you can do with it. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the intro, and so let's go to work. Okay, so here we have our rendered image, and now let's say we want to upload it to Chaos Cloud so we can collaborate with our team or with our clients. So to do that, all we have to do is we need to go under the Collab tab here in the VFB. And then if you're not signed in, you just click the sign in button that's going to appear down here. But that procedure is super straightforward. We're not really going to showcase it. And as you can see, we're already logged in here ourselves. So now all we have to do is to upload this image to Chaos Cloud. We just need to click in here, and then we'll get to select our upload destination. So here we can decide where we want to place or where we want to upload this image in our sort of folder structure that we have on Chaos Cloud. And in this particular case, we want to drop this image into our tutorial project sort of folder here, but we want to create a different subfolder for it. We can do that real easily by clicking this plus button here, and then we can just select the create folder button. And we're just going to call this the tutorial scene folder. Okay, and now we can hit upload file, and we're going to upload this image into this folder. But before we do that, just a bit of a note: you can also rename your image up here. But in our case, this naming convention is going to be just fine, so we're going to let it be. But in case you want to rename it, you can do that real quickly by just clicking on this pencil icon up here. But we're happy with how things are. We have our tutorial scene folder selected here, and then we're just going to hit the upload file button. The upload process, completed pretty fast, and now our image has been uploaded to our tutorial scene folder on Chaos Cloud. Now, we can initiate a new upload if we want to upload another image directly from the VFB, or we can just open up Chaos Cloud and continue working in there, which is exactly what we're going to do here by clicking on this button. Now, as soon as you do that, Chaos Cloud is going to open up in your web browser, much like it did for us here. And now we're essentially, we're on Chaos Cloud. On the left here, we have our basic navigation, so you can go through your projects, you can go through the stuff that's been shared with you, and you can also go through your trash bin. Okay, now the main sort of view here is centered on your project. So right now we have two different projects. We have the mobile house CGI project, and we have our tutorial project. These are basically your main folders or your root folders, and you typically create a new project every time you're working on a new or a different project, right? You can do that by clicking on this create project button here, but we won't do that because we already have all the projects set up that we need. So what we're going to do next here is we're going to hop into our tutorial project, because here is where our tutorial scene subfolder lives. Here's where we've uploaded our image, right? Now we have another subfolder right here, and we also have a virtual tour all set up here, but more about these later on. Okay, you can create new virtual tours, but more on these later on. Anyhow, you can create new folders from directly from Chaos Cloud, so you don't have to do it through the VFB if you don't like to, and you can also upload stuff directly on here using the upload button. Okay, now we're concerned with the image that we just uploaded, so we're going to go into our tutorial scene subfolder here, and in here, as you can see, we can again upload new images. So you don't have to do that through the VFB if you don't want to. You can do it directly from the cloud. But this image is what we're working on right now, so we don't need to upload any others. And so let's just open up this image by clicking on its thumbnail. And so now we are in, well, essentially full collaboration mode. We can navigate this image, we can zoom into it, do all that kind of stuff. But what's really interesting here is the fact that you can leave comments, right? So if you just open up the comments menu here by clicking on the comments button, you can now start placing your comment markers anywhere on the image you'd like to. So we're going to place a comment marker right here, and we're going to ask the client if they really like this marble material or whether it should be replaced with a different one. Now, what's really cool here is that you can even add image attachments to your comment. So we're going to do that here by clicking on this button. And now we're just going to select this marble texture that we're sort of suggesting to the client as the replacement option, right? And we can just hit create comment. And now, as you can see, our comment is showing up under comments here. And well, the client will be able to see it and make decisions, right? We can place another comment. We can place as many as you'd like. So we're just gonna ask the client whether they like this particular statue here. And this time around, we're not gonna upload any image attachments. This is essentially how comments work, right? You can have pretty much as many as you'd like. And this makes collaborating with your clients or with your team quite a lot easier, as you can probably imagine, right? Okay, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to give our client, who by the way is Tom, the product manager for Corona, we're going to give our client an opportunity to gracefully reply to our comments and also give them the opportunity to add comments of their own. Okay, so now that our client has commented, as you can see, some pretty nice comments, we can see all of them displayed on our end as well, right? So now what we can do is we can, for example, click the resolve button here for all the comments that are essentially resolved. So for example, this number 1 comment here pertaining the marble material, the client liked it, Tom liked it, so we can leave that material as is. And so that means that this is basically resolved, right? So we can click the resolve button, and now that comment jumped under the resolved sort of comments submenu or tab here, okay? Now, for the rest of these, to resolve the rest of these, we had to go back and re-render the image. And so what we're going to do next here is we're going to upload a new version of this image. Okay, so we're going to click the plus button here, go under version, and now we're just going to search for the updated image in our browser here. There we go. It's going to upload. And now, as you can see right here, we can choose between the different versions that we have. Okay, now what we can also do is we can compare the two versions. Okay, so while we are here, let's close the comments for a second and let's click the compare versions button. As you can see, you have this A and B compare option now, so you can kind of very easily assess the differences between the two variations, right? And you can do a side by side as well, and you got all these really cool options here, right? So this is something that is definitely worth exploring, right? Now, when you're done with the comparison, what you can do is you can just click on the back button here, and you're going to go back to your sort of main image that you have selected. And again, you can select the image from right here, where you can select a different version, right? Okay, so with that done, what we can now do is we can go back into our comments, for example, right? And we can be like, oh, okay, the statue, we removed that statue that our client did not like, so we can mark this as resolved. Now, for this particular comment, I don't really know what the client meant here. And so at this point, what I can do is I can go back and just reply to the comment. So for example, what exactly do you mean now? AKA, where do we want to move this thing? And so, at this point, you're collaborating, right? And that's the entire point of the collaboration part of Chaos Cloud, right? Now, just as a very quick tip, what you can also do when you're creating comments, okay, is you can use these sort of drawing tools here to get your point across a little bit better. So in this case, for example, we could, draw a little arrow pointing where in which direction this chandelier should move and things like that, right? And you can choose the color for whatever you're drawing, etc., etc. And then you can mark this as a comment. So in this case, we're going to ask the client, would the chandelier look better if moved to the left, right? So you can do stuff like that as well, just so you know. Okay, but now if you want to collaborate with anyone, you got to give them access to the stuff you're working on, right? And so you can do that by going under the additional options menu here, and then you just click on the share button, and then the sharing options menu is going to pop up for you. Now up here in the email input field, you can type in the email address of either your client or your team members, and then you can define what kind of permissions do they have. Are they only a viewer, or do they have editor rights as well, right? Then you send out the invitation, and then that person is going to have access to whatever you're working on here. They will appear in here in the members with access list. You're going to see their email and also the permissions that you've given them. Alternatively, you can also share the link to your project here, and then you can define what happens when people click on that link, or better yet, what kind of permissions do people have when they click on your link. So what we've done here, or what I've done here, is I've set the link access to anyone can comment. That means that anyone I send this link to is automatically going to be able to comment on our image, which is fine if you just send it to a couple of people, right? But if this is something that you're about to post publicly, well, then, anyone with the access to the link will be able to comment on it, right? So you have different options in here. If you go with invited only, then only members with access are going to have, access to the stuff you're working on. But choose carefully here and choose accordingly to your needs, right? Then you also have the ability to have your comments be unlocked or locked, or have them be set the same as parent. Okay, so needless to say, if you lock your comments, people are not going to be able to comment, right? And so in a nutshell, those are the sharing options that you have. Now, just a bit of an intermission, just to avoid any sort of confusion here, okay? If you type in an email in here and send out an invitation, that person is going to get an email invitation to join in on this project using the permissions that you've set here, right? And then they will appear in the members with access list down here. Now, alternatively, you can also just send them a link. You don't have to rely on the invitation. Okay, I mean, they'll get it if you send the invitation, but you can also send them a link if you're using Slack or whatever, right? So they don't have to open up that email. But in that case, the link access, you would probably want it to be set to invited only, so that only people that are sort of allowed to have access will have access, right? But alternatively, what we're trying to say here is what you can also do is you can just set this to, for example, anyone can view, and then you can just send them this link. You don't have to send out invitations if you don't want to. And then those people will be able to see what you're working on as well. Or if you go with anyone can comment, well, then you send them the link, and just anyone, regardless of whether they're on the list or not, will be able to comment. So hopefully just, clear any sort of confusion here. Okay, so now we're going to be switching gears a little bit to a different topic. It's still part of Chaos Cloud, obviously. And so now we're going to talk about how you can set up virtual tours with the collaboration functionality in Chaos Cloud. And setting virtual tours is rather easy, as you'll be able to see. Okay, so first up, we are going to go back into our tutorial project here. And now that we're in here, we can create a new virtual tour that's going to live as part of this project, right? So we're going to click the virtual tour button, and we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it the virtual tour sample scene C. You can already see that we created a couple of test ones before we recorded this tutorial. But anyhow, let's go with this one. We're going to call it sample scene C virtual tour, and we're just going to hop into it by clicking onto its thumbnail. Now what we want to do is we want to upload images to it, obviously, right? So we're going to click in here, and then we are just going to, start uploading images. And these are the panoramic images that we have created. So we're just going to select multiple of them, and we're going to hit upload, okay, or open in this case, and then the upload is going to start. How long it takes depends on your internet connection and all that stuff, but as you'll see, because these are panoramic images, they're a little bit bigger, but it's not going to take all that much time, right? All right, so we fast forwarded through the upload process here, just not to waste any of your time. And as you can see, we have our images on here now. And what we're gonna do next here is we're just gonna open up the first one by clicking on its thumbnail. And we're gonna give it a second for it to load up. There we go. Okay, so now, as you can see, this is a panoramic image, but it's not displayed as one. And so if we go under additional options here and under file info, in here we can toggle the panorama mode to on, okay? And as soon as we do that, you'll be able to see that this image is now going to be displayed as a panoramic image, and it'll work like, you would kind of expect it to. Now, you have to click this panoramic button whenever you don't have images that are created in the 2:1 aspect ratio, which is your typical panoramic aspect ratio. If you upload images that are in the 2:1 aspect ratio, well then this button will be automatically toggled to on for you, because Chaos Cloud will detect that this is a proper panoramic image. But even if you've not generated your panoramas in that specific aspect ratio, you can always just, go under that file info menu and then just click the panorama mode or enable the panorama mode, right? All right, so now what we want to do is we want to do the same thing for all of our images. And so to do that, you just need to go into each and every one of them and review them, make sure that they're looking like they should be, right? And then just go under file info, toggle panorama mode to on, and you're done, right? And so we're going to do that for the third image here as well. So file info, panorama mode. And again, you don't have to do this if you're rendering out your panoramas in the 2:1 aspect ratio. But anyhow, now we have all these images displayed as, your proper panoramas. As you can see, we can sort of look around, and this is going to work exactly the way you would expect it to work. Now, one thing you will probably notice is that the menu down here, so the different images, the different panoramas that you have a certain order, right? And this order that you see down here matches the order that you see right here. And you can see that this is indeed the case is because this image here is labeled as image number 1, this is image number 2, and this is image number 3. So when you start your virtual tour in a proper way, like let's say you're a client and you're opening up the virtual tour, it's the same as hitting this button up here. The image that the virtual tour is going to start on is going to be image 1. So you want to make sure, that the order, the sequence here is exactly how you want it to be. Now, in our case here, we're just going to move this second image to right here and our third image into the second slot. So now our virtual tour is going to start with this first image. So let's just click the start virtual tour button. And as you can see, yeah, that's indeed the case. And this order, the sequence down here then matches what we see here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to jump back into our first image here by clicking on its thumbnail. And now we're going to be setting up these things called hotspots that will make navigating our virtual tour easier. So we're going to go under the edit menu up here under hotspots, and we're just going to place a hotspot, I guess, somewhere around here. Okay, for the target of this hotspot, we're going to select our living room panoramic image. Okay, and for the title, we're going to give it a descriptive title. We're going to call it the living room area. And now we can decide whether we want the title to be visible at all times on hover or not visible at all. We can decide on the icon, the color, the size of the icon, and all that. Okay, but anyhow, we're happy with how this looks like. We're going to hit save. Now we've essentially created our first hotspot, but let's just very quickly create another one. And this one is going to take us to the pool side. So we're going to link it to the pool side panoramic image. We're going to call it the pool area hotspot. And, we could change the icon. We probably should change the color because it's barely visible. But you know what? For us, this is going to work. We're just going to hit save. And now what we can do is, if we click on one of these hotspots, it's going to take us to that room, right? So let's click on the living room area hotspot. And as you can see, now we're in the living room area, right? But now, as you can see, there are no hotspots to go to the pool side from here or the kitchen. So we're going to have to set them up for each individual image. So we're going to create another hotspot here, pointed at the kitchen, and we're going to link it up to the kitchen image called the kitchen area. and just hit save. Okay, and we're gonna do the same for the pool area. So we're gonna create a hotspot here, link it correctly, call it the pool area hotspot, hit save. And now what we're gonna do here, we're gonna go to the pool area, and in the pool area, again, we're gonna have to set up the hotspots to go into the other two rooms or other two images. So we're gonna, we're just gonna place a hotspot right here, I guess. And we're gonna call it we're gonna link it to the living room image. We're gonna call it the living room area, save. And we're gonna create our another hotspot here that goes directly to the kitchen. So this is the kitchen area hotspot. Okay. All right. So with all this now done, what you can see is if we navigate through this virtual tour here, we can jump to the living room area, right? We can go back to the pool side, or we can go to the kitchen area here. And from the kitchen area, we can go, I guess, directly to the pool area or back into the living room, etc., etc. So this makes navigating your virtual tours a lot easier, as you can imagine, right? Now, additionally, what you can also do is, if you go under edit here, you can also place highlights. So we're going to place a highlight on the table here, and we're going to call it the dining room table. In here, you can put a link or some sort of a description or whatever. We're just going to call it, or we're just going to type in, put a proper description in here, right? And then what we can do is we can also put an attachment here to be displayed in this sort of area you see right here. So just to demo that, let's click on here. We're going to upload an attachment. It's a rendered image of our dining room table. And as you can see, we can upload it, and now it's going to show up like this, just to give the viewer a little bit of a better idea of what this highlight is highlighting, or what this highlight is about, or whatever. You can change the icon of the highlight if you so want to. You can change the color, you can change the size, you can do all that. When you're done, just hit save. And now, as you can see, if we navigate through this virtual tour, you can see that we can hover over this highlight, and we're going to get, this highlighted area, this image with the title and the description in here, right? So this is just another sort of cool thing you can add to your virtual tour. So in this case, we could, have a link where, somebody can buy this table. We can put a proper description in here of, the dimensions of this table, or the describing how this table was made, or the material that it's made of, things like that, right? Okay, now on top of that, you can also create floor plans to make navigating your virtual tours even easier. So to do that, what we're going to do next here is we're going to upload a new image, and it's going to be this floor plan rendered image. This is basically an image that was taken in Corona from a top-down perspective using a slicer to cut through the ceilings and all that, right? Now, we don't want to start our virtual tour with the floor plan. You can if you so want to, but in our case, we won't, so we moved it to last place here. Now that we have this floor plan image set up here, what we want to do is we want to go under additional options here, and we want to set it to be basically the floor plan image. Okay, just by clicking on that, you can see that now it has this sort of tag here that says this is a floor plan image. And now if we jump into it, what we can now do is we can go under edit, okay, and we can place hotspots. So we're going to place one in the kitchen area, obviously, and I'm going to link it to the kitchen camera. So exactly the same procedure as before, right? And we're just going to hit save, and then we're going to set up the living room area hotspot. So just like this. And also we need one for the pool side. So we're going to place it here, link it to the pool side image, and just call it the pool area hotspot. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go back to our virtual tour folder here. And now we're just going to start up the actual virtual tour just to demo how all of this works. Okay, so now as you can see, we have all of our hotspots that we set up earlier, but now we also have this floor plan image down here. And if we click on it, we're in our floor plan, and we can navigate our virtual tour a little bit more easier this way, right? We just click on the hotspot, and now we're there. But now what's even more handy is that once you have your floor plan set up, this mini map is going to get auto-generated for you. And if you click on it, you can now, as you can see, have this quick access to the floor plan itself. And so now you can jump to each area of your virtual tour very, very quickly, very effectively, right? So all in all, I think we can all agree, pretty useful functionality. Okay, now there's another really useful thing that you can do with your virtual tours, and that is you can leave comments on your panoramic images. Okay, so the workflow is exactly the same as it was, when we showcased it earlier with the image that we uploaded from our VFB. And so you just go in here, or you just click this button right here where it says comments, and you can just drop a comment anywhere on the image you'd like. So in this case, maybe you can let your client know that this is just a temporary cooktop. Maybe they have options to replace them with other ones, etc., etc. And then you comment, and your clients will be able to reply, right? So there's that functionality that's available to you as well. Now, when you're ready to share your virtual tours with your clients, all you have to do is you need to be inside your virtual tour folder, right? That's pretty much a given. And you just go under share here, and then you can set up, who has the access to the actual virtual tour, who can comment on it. And you can also define all that by simply typing in the email addresses and setting essentially their privileges, right? So exactly the same workflow that we showcased earlier in the tutorial. So ultimately, we're just going to copy the link to this virtual tour. We're going to paste it into our browser here. And as you'll be able to see, we're going to be inside our virtual tour here. And this is what your client will end up seeing. And again, they can leave comments and you can have a back and forth with them, etc., etc. Right? So this is the gist of it. As you can see, it's pretty easy to set up, and then it's pretty easy to share around as well. You just send the link to your client and they will see, your virtual tour the way you set it up. Okay, so with all that explained, and before we start concluding this tutorial, we're going to go over a couple of different topics, workflow suggestions, quick tips, if you will. And we're going to start with auto hotspot generation. So if you go under edit up here, under hotspots, you're going to be able to see that you have this auto generate button, but it's currently grayed out. And that is because, as the tooltip suggests, this feature is currently only available for panoramas that are generated with Chaos Enscape and Chaos V-Ray 7. So unfortunately, the auto generate option here won't work with Corona in this version. We are looking into implementing this feature to work with Corona, but at the moment it doesn't. And what it essentially does is it automatically generates the hotspot that we created here manually. Again, though, this is something that we are looking at implementing in future Corona versions. Now, for a bit of a quick tip here, if you share the link to your panoramas after all of your link access options settings are all set up properly the way you need them to be, right? If you embed this link onto your website, well, then you're going to have a virtual tour embedded onto your website. So the visitors to your website will be able to explore the project in virtual tour fashion. And as another quick tip, we haven't shown it in this tutorial, but your virtual tours that you set up on Chaos Cloud can also be in stereo, so they can be viewed on VR headsets properly as well. In that case, of course, you would have to render out your images in stereo, and the Chaos Cloud will do the rest for you. And another fun fact or quick tip about virtual tours and how they work on Chaos Cloud is that the versioning workflow that we showcased earlier in the tutorial applies to your panoramas, to your virtual tours as well. So at any point in time, you can have your image that you're working on be selected and upload an updated version of it. So in this case, we're just going to update the kitchen cam panoramic image here. It's going to need a second or two to upload here. We are going to fast forward through this part just so you don't have to wait for all the processing and uploading to finish, because these are fairly large images after all. But once all of that is done, as you can see, we're now looking at the new updated version of our image. And you can switch between all the different versions up here. So the same workflow as we showcased earlier in the tutorial still applies. Now, the really cool thing here is that if you switch between the different versions here, you'll be able to see that the hotspots will still work. They will still stay embedded in the image, and so you don't lose any of that progress. Now, additionally, as another quick tip, what you can also do is you can upload any of the images that you have in your history list onto Chaos Cloud. So you can do that very easily just by clicking the upload this item to Chaos Cloud collaboration button here. You do that, and then, this menu will appear, and then you can just choose wherever you want to place your image. So the usual upload procedure will apply. All right, and with that, we are at the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you've learned something new, and we do hope you'll enjoy using the collaboration aspects of Chaos Cloud. If you have any questions, please feel free to hop over on our forums or leave a comment. And yeah, as always, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.